Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have a great show for everybody today. Unfortunately, a couple of things. Krystal, actually, one of her kids is sick and she's not able to make it this morning. It was an emergency, so I'll be holding down the fort. Luckily, I do have some practice at this now, at this point. Now, of course, we have full spectrum coverage here at Breaking Points this morning of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. We brought you two breaking news segments over the weekend, breaking some of that down, but we're going to go a full through the timeline of the events, some of the fallout, what we know about the shooter so far, the FBI investigation, President Biden's response. We'll then dissect exactly what we know about the Secret Service's colossal failure here in preventing this attempted assassination, some of the holes that have opened up, and some of the background also into the problems inside of this agency that are now glaringly revealed after this incident. We're going to talk a little bit about President Biden and his political future. His political future appears saved, more so now by the attempted assassination, and some of the news coverage and some of the planning going on now behind the scenes by the Democratic Party, how they think that they can weather this and perhaps go all the way to Election Day without more calls from elected officials calling on Biden to drop out. We're going to give everybody a preview of the RNC, which of course kicks off today and will go all the way to Thursday. Some news about Donald Trump and the speech that he's given, and about also some changes that he's made to that speech in the wake of his shooting, how he's feeling exactly, and how this will change the presidential election race going into 2024. We'll finally end the segment on a funny note. Somebody who you saw very recently here on this program, the advisor to Democratic billionaire megadonor Reid Hoffman, has apparently been caught in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, who you saw in our Counterpoints debate against Cenk Uygur about Biden staying in the race. Well, he apparently was caught telling journalists in the hours after the attempted assassination that the entire thing was apparently staged. So a real view into the Democratic elite mind and some of the conspiracies that harbor there. As we said at the top, this is a full spectrum Breaking Points coverage. Thank you to everybody, our premium subscribers, who enable us to be able to put out that breaking news coverage and to continue doing the show here every day. Our own Emily Jashinsky is on the ground at the RNC, so throughout the week we'll check in with her about what's going on. She'll be doing interviews and other things. And then don't forget, we also, the entire crew, will be on the ground for the DNC, which is in August in Chicago. So thank you to all of our premium members. You're the guys who enable us to continue doing this work. Let's start with the attempted assassination on Donald Trump, and I'll try and just start at the very beginning of the incident. So let's go ahead and play some of the video here. This was in Butler, Pennsylvania, approximately 6:15 p.m. You saw Trump. He was in the middle of his speech, only 5 minutes or so. Immediately, you see shots begin to ring out, and Secret Service agents who jump immediately on top of the president. The most striking things is that you can see the incredible confusion going on behind Donald Trump. And unfortunately, that heartbreaking scream that you hear in the background is people realizing that an innocent bystander, just a normal person who woke up on Saturday, he was excited to go to the former president's rally, lost his life and was shot. ER doctor who was on the scene said that he was shot in the head, and almost certainly a fatality immediately after it happened. We know a little bit more about that individual, and I'll bring you some news about him. But what you're watching, obviously, is just an incredibly chaotic scene. You have these Secret Service agents. We can actually hear them on the microphone that is being picked up there, where they're saying, "Get down, get down." Then they realize that the shooter is down. They say that the threat has been neutralized. As Trump begins to rise, they bring him up and they surround him and create a barrier with their own bodies around the former president. One of them is actually checking him for wounds while he is standing there. Trump obviously is he's a little bit confused in the immediate moment, but then he says, "Wait, wait, wait." And that is one of the most iconic moments where he shouts, "Fight, fight, fight," to the crowd, puts his fist up, also creating that iconic image that we have now all probably seen over the weekend, where you can see the Associated Press photographer was right below him and was able to capture Trump with his fist in the air, blood on his face, and the American flag flying high in the background as he is rushed to his vehicle. Let's go to the next part here as well. Put that image, please, up on the screen. This is where a lot of the questions now are centering. What the hell happened here with this response from law enforcement? So what you can see directly in front of you, this is a map that's been put together. You can see the stage where Donald Trump was speaking in Butler, Pennsylvania. You can also see where the wounded rally attendee was sitting. You can see behind where the law enforcement counter snipers were positioned on the rooftop. There's been a lot of discussion around the actions of those counter snipers. But then over to the left on that building rooftop was the location of the gunman's body. So there's a lot of questions here about how exactly a gunman is able to walk on to a rooftop with a direct line of sight to former President Donald Trump. He's able not only to walk onto the rooftop, he's able to get into the prone firing position and then able to squeeze off some 7 to 8 shots at the former president. Let's go and put the next graphic up, please. That is also very helpful in kind of discovering what happened here. This shows you actually on the ground image and also realizes just how close that this individual was able to get. We're talking about 130 yards that this individual is able to get from the former president, and one of the most obvious and direct lines of sight. Now, there's big discussions here about the failures of the Secret Service, but I think that image actually puts everything together quite well. You could see exactly where the shooter was, you could see where the Secret Service snipers were, and you can also see where Donald Trump was there on the stage. And unfortunately, in the path of that assassin's bullet, an innocent bystander was hit in the head while he was covering his own family. Just absolutely tragic in the results that have happened here. What I think that this image underscores most for us is the failure and some shocking questions that now have to be asked of the Secret Service and how exactly they allowed something like this to happen. Everything that we're beginning to learn now behind the scenes points to absolutely colossal incompetence. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen in terms of what we know about the shooter. They've released his name. The individual's name here is Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, about a 40-minute drive from the Butler, Pennsylvania rally where Donald Trump was attending. There is very little known about Mr. Crooks. He was a 20-year-old man. He was killed by Secret Service counter snipers after he took shots at the former president. The thing is, though, is that all we really know about him so far is that he recently graduated from high school, 20-year-old, does not appear to have had a significant social media presence. Discord confirmed that he did have an account with them, but they claim, at least for now, that the account has been taken down and that he was not known to have engaged in any political discussion or anything related to the investigation. The authorities say that they are fighting and searching, for any clues to the motive of Mr. Crooks, but in terms of what we know about him so far is just some smatterings that have begun to come out from some of his classmates. So we actually have here a student in class who was in the classes with Mr. Crooks, claimed that he was, quote, bullied almost every day and relentlessly because of his appearance and for being an outcast. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
He was bullied almost every day.
In what way? Can you explain?
He would sit alone at lunch. He was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever. So it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but he was just bullied. He was bullied so much.
And this was high school?
Yeah.
What did do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
Made fun of for the way he dressed. We can't surmise a lot. All we know really about Mr. Crooks is also what he was wearing on that day. He was wearing khaki, I think it was pants, and with a t-shirt that was tucked into it. The t-shirt was of a gun YouTuber, very popular, but he's not a political person, and the shirt itself doesn't mean anything in and of itself. The FBI has now taken control of the entire investigation. They also cast a little bit of shock at the Secret Service. They said, yeah, it's surprising that this individual was able to get in contact. Here's a little bit about what we know that's broken overnight. The FBI is now telling us that the gunman, quote, appears to have acted alone, but investigators remain unsure of his motives, political beliefs. They have not even been able to determine what evidence might yet be on his cell phone. So there's some questions there. We also, apparently, according to them, they found, quote, rudimentary explosive devices in the gunman's vehicle, and possible explosives were also found at his residence. We know that Mr. Crooks apparently lived in his home with his parents. His parents are two registered social workers and or counselors. In terms of his own political history, a lot has been made. Listen, you can make of this what you will. He is, quote, registered as a Republican, also donated $15 to a group allied with Democrats on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. That appears to basically be it. He, quote, had an engineering degree from a nearby community college, probably associate's degree. He, quote, liked to play chess, video games, and was learning how to code. Unlike most people in his generation, he seemed to have a minimal presence online, leaving no telltale trail of public comments or social media posts. In and of itself, frankly, a bit suspicious. I don't know a single 20-year-old who isn't very, very active, or perhaps he had a pseudonymous username or something that has not yet been uncovered. We're waiting on discussions and information from the FBI. Didn't also, though, want to pass over the individual who was killed at the Trump rally, Corey Compatore. And here is Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, who told us a little bit about Corey. Let's take a listen.
We lost a fellow Pennsylvanian last night, Corey Compatore. I just spoke to Corey's wife and Corey's two daughters. Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president and was so excited to be there last night with him in the community. I asked Corey's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Corey died a hero, that Corey dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally. Corey was the very best of us. May his memory be a blessing.
Yeah, I think that's very well said from the governor of Pennsylvania. That image was released by Corey's own daughters, who say that he dived on top of them in the midst of the shooting. It's very likely, at the very least, that scream, that horrifying, blood-curdling scream that we heard in that video was people realizing that Corey had been shot, as well as some other individuals who were injured, at this rally. President Biden spoken 3 times now since the attempted assassination, but perhaps his most high-profile comments came last night from an Oval Office address in which President Biden urged unity. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back, take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. That's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. We're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect.
So that's what we've gotten so far from current President Joe Biden. I'll save the politics for a little bit later in the show. Just note that he did still struggle through some of his sentence there in a mere 6-minute Oval Office address. That was the longest, actually, comments that he gave since the attempted assassination. A couple minutes in the immediate aftermath, then a couple of minutes yesterday on Sunday afternoon, and then finally his 8 p.m. Oval Office address urging unity. So continuing just in terms of the details, I want to make sure I give everybody that they can. There's a little bit that came out in a report now from the Wall Street Journal where they say that the AR-15 rifle that Mr. Crooks used, we know that it belonged to his father. Now, apparently, the elder Mr. Crooks told investigators that he believed his son had gone to a gun range on Saturday. He became concerned when he could not reach him, and he called police after the news of the shooting. There's going to be a lot of investigation into the Crooks' parents, obviously, because not only was their gun used in the attempted assassination, but apparently there were alleged explosive devices, alleged or rudimentary ones that were left at the residence and including in Mr. Crooks' cars. So some questions, exactly about what they knew and some possible negligence on their own part and what was happening. According to the FBI, according to them, they say Crooks was not known previously to law enforcement, which frankly is a little bit surprising, having been covering a lot of these mass shootings and other types of incidents over a long period of time. That's almost always the case. They also claim that Crooks has no history of mental illness. Keep in mind, however, he could have been allegedly treated or whatever by his own parents because they themselves social worker and counselor licensed by the state of Pennsylvania. So it's possible that it was kept in-house. This is just speculation on my own part, just trying to piece together some of the details. But so far right now, all we can really say is just this is a shocking, insane event really that happened. We should keep in mind, this is the first time that a bullet has touched a president, even a former president, at a rally like this since Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981 here in Washington, D.C. And there were a lot of people who were looking at that previous, incident and thinking about how the Secret Service itself was supposed to reform. We should really keep in mind that was a very, very different time. John Hinckley, the person who attempted to assassinate President Reagan, he was just mere feet away from Ronald Reagan there, and he somehow was able to get a gun there in the presence of the president. There also were significant changes to security protocols in the aftermath of those two incidents, of the JFK assassination and also of the Reagan attempted assassination. After the JFK one, that's when the Secret Service, was reformed, at least, for Congress, and they were supposed to do these sightline investigations. So they were supposed to have counter sniper teams. After the Reagan assassination, that's actually when they first started doing metal detectors and a lot of other policies implemented over at the White House and also at presidential events. And then slowly the security umbrella, has gone forward. And I can tell you that's part of the reason why I was so stunned, and me along with many others believed, because of the way that the shots were heard on the microphone, that it was could have been a small caliber bullet and rifle. This was even according to the people in the crowd, is because the disbelief on everyone's part was, how could anybody even possibly get a shot off from outside of the security perimeter from that sightline, just a mere 136 yards away from where the president is speaking directly at the president, enough to get mere millimeters away from his face and have a bullet go through his ear. I'm sure you've seen much of this, but we are literally living in a very lucky world where the former president was not assassinated. If he had not turned his head at that exact moment, he would be a dead man. And we would have, think about footage from the 1960s and then compare it to the high resolution of where we are today. Not to mention, the political and just civic fallout from what that would look like just mere days before the Republican National Convention. So literally dodged a bullet. I think the nation and former President Trump, he himself apparently has undergone quite a change in the way that he's just looking at things. Who knows, if it'll last or any of that. But at the very least, I don't think you can literally get shot in the head and not be a different person on the other end of this. And questions continue to remain about the Secret Service, about the failures in this investigation, failures in the setup for everything that went down behind the scenes. There also is a lot of questions that continue now about the Secret Service's response potential cover up here. We haven't really heard a lot from the director of the Secret Service, who herself, she was in Aspen, Colorado, whenever this all happened, and apparently flew back to Washington. She's released only a very, very short statement. We also, according to them, they said, quote, that they've made no changes to the security procedures at the Republican National Convention. That itself seems absolutely insane to me. But to help me break some of this more down, Ken Klippenstein, the great journalist who's done some work and has now written a piece here about the Secret Service failures, tracing things all the way back inside of this agency, will join me now to break some of this down. Let's get to it. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.